Hi everyone, we are on lesson 14 of the Resolve 15 training. So we are on the deliver page now. So you've done all the work, you've edited, you've done your sound, you've done your effects, and you finalized your color. Now it's time to deliver your project. So you want to create the exports. Let's jump into the Age of Airplanes project. Let's click on the Deliver page at the bottom right, or it is Shift 8, or just click on the Deliver page. Now, the Deliver page looks sort of similar to your Edit page, but with a few key differences. First of all, you cannot edit at all in this page. If I click on a clip and try to move or trim, I cannot do that. This assumes that you're done and you're locked with everything. You're not going to change anything, so you can't do any editing. So if you are trying to edit and you can't move a clip or trim, you're probably in the Deliver page. All right, at the very top is the very familiar interface toolbar. It is now updated for all the stuff you can do in Deliver page. Click Show Hide. That's what you can do there. Below is your render settings. You can go all these different types of render settings. To the right of that is your viewer. This will show you the output. And then next to that is your render queue. This is where you'll add jobs and then you can start your render. Below that is your thumbnail clip view. Works very similar to the one in the color page. And below that is the timeline. Again, you cannot edit, but it will show you your timeline like it looked like in the edit page. So you're ready to deliver. You've got everything you need. You can do a lot in the delivery page, so it's really flexible. You can create outputs that are low-res editing proxies to the highest quality master files to DCPs that you play in a theater. You can batch render multiple files to multiple resolutions, compression formats, and destinations, all within the same project. In this lesson, we'll use the Deliver page to create two separate outputs, one for high-quality web streaming and another custom output for VFX. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is create a web-ready export. So at the top of our render settings, let's click on the Vimeo Preset. When you do that, Resolve changes all these parameters below to fit the optimal settings for these different streaming platforms or for ProRes or these masters. So all these presets are configured. Now you can also configure them and customize them after you choose a preset. So let's first choose our Vimeo preset and let's change the name. Let's change the file name. Let's change it to web export. Below that is our location. So where are we going to save it? We're going to save it to our desktop. Below that, we'll render out a single clip or individual clip. Single clip is what we want. Individual clips would be appropriate for, let's say, creating proxies for editing, or if you're creating a round trip to, let's say, if you need to go back into Premiere, you need to export all your high quality color corrected files and you'll conform or finish it in another program. That's what individual clips can be for. But here we're exporting all in one, so we'll do web export and single clip. Below the video settings, it's a QuickTime format and H.264. And you can see the resolution and frame rate. Quality, this is the bit rate. Now, for these files, they automatically default to 10,000 kilobits per second or 10 megabits per second. We'll drop that down so that it's a little bit lighter of a file, especially with a 1080p. We don't need a super high quality file for this sort of project. So 7,500 kilobits per second is fine. Below that is encoding profile. You can check the different options here. Auto is generally good for most settings. If you're aware of the specific device your content will be played on, then changing the encoding profile might actually be a good choice. For example, if you're going directly to iPhone, Android mobile, these prefer the base profile setting, which is a lower power consumption profile. If you're uploading to Vimeo or something, web streaming, then high profile is your choice because it was originally created as a digital format for Blu-ray discs. So let's choose high, and that will definitely give us the best quality, but the trade-off is a larger file size. The passes single or multiple refers to how many passes Resolve will take when in determining the compression. Multiple will generally give you higher quality files, and that's the type of settings that we'll address here for this part. We'll jump to the audio tab. You can customize your audio here. So the codec generally will be AAC unless you're doing something for uncompressed sound, then you can choose linear PCM. We'll stick with AAC. Now the bitrate strategy is also about compression, so determining what type of compression or what method of compression. We'll choose variable bitrate constrained. Now, variable bitrate in general squeezes the same quality audio into smaller file sizes, but it kind of varies widely in its bitrate. The constrained option gives you, the efficiency of VBR, variable bitrate, but it's limited to a target maximum rate, which here is 320 kilobits. And then finally, in the File tab, this is where you can name it. So we're going to call it Web Export, and then I'll just add Vimeo to the end. And you can see if I scroll back up, it'll update in the file name. So this right here is the same as this custom name. So before we finish this, we're going to add one more thing to our output, and that's going to be a watermark. So we're going to superimpose the title "Do Not Distribute" on top of this video. So we're going to add a burn-in. So first, let's jump back into our video page, and then we'll scroll down a little bit. Now, because my monitor resolution is a little bit low, I want to give myself this whole column. So I'll click this disclosure triangle up here to give me the full view. Click on Advanced Settings and scroll down to Data Burn-in. I'll do same as project. So now I'm going to enable my data burn-in by going to Workspace and Data Burn-in. Brings up this window right here. And there are a lot of different parameters that you can add and burn into your window. So for example, record time code. This can add a time code and burn that in. So if you're doing proxies or an export that needs time code, this can work. We're just going to do a custom text, and we'll write down "Do not distribute." You can customize these here. I'm not going to change anything, and I'm going to close it. So now "Do not distribute" is going to be seen for the entire project. All right, so that's the last thing we wanted to add. And when we're ready to add this job into our queue, at the bottom it says Add to Render Queue, and you'll see it right there. When you double click on this Age of Airplanes 05, the sequence, it actually switches to the file name that will be exported. Next thing we want to do is export a clip for our VFX team. If you remember, this clip had an annotation that we wanted to move the plane down. So for here, we want to export this clip for VFX. I'm going to jump into Custom, our preset, because this allows us to adjust any parameter here. So first, I'll name this Airplane VFX. I'll spell it correctly. And then we'll go to Format, and we're going to export an EXR, which is a very common format for VFX. Now, depending on your VFX house, they may tell you specifically what they want. So whatever codec they need, Resolve has the different types of codecs that are used in a professional workflow. We'll keep everything the same, but we don't want any data burn-ins, so we'll take off data burn-ins here. EXR files do not have any audio, so we cannot even touch that. We'll jump into File, and the custom name is Airplane VFX. So because each frame will become an EXR file, you need to number the frames so that the VFX artist will know the order in which the frame should appear. So we'll set use number digits in the file name to 4. So this will add 4 numeric digits to the end of each file. And none of our shots are over 1,000 frames long, so 4 digits should be plenty. Then make sure you select each clip starts at the frame checkbox and then enter 001. Now that we've got this settings, we want to make sure that we're sending only this clip to the VFX team. So right now you can see it says it's render the entire timeline. So let's right click on this clip right here and render this clip. You can see that now it becomes an in and out range of this specific clip. Let's say that this render setting is something that we're going to use over and over again because we need to send a lot of VFX out to the vendors. So we can save this as a custom render preset. You click in the options menu in your render settings, you can save as a new preset, and we'll call this VFX output. And when we do that, it becomes a new custom setting here, right there. All right, that looks good, and I'm going to actually save it into a VFX folder because what's going to happen is it's going to save a bunch of images or frames. So EXR, TIFF, those are image sequences. We'll add this to our render queue. All right, we've got these two in our render queue. Now, even if we quit Resolve, when we load back our program, those two jobs will still be in our render queue, ready for us to start the render. Let's jump back to Age of Airplanes, and there it is. So let's render these out. One thing you can do is name the job, so we can name this job 1 as Web Export. Job 2 is the VFX export. When you're ready to render, you can select the jobs that you want to render and hit Start Render, or you can deselect everything and then we'll render everything in your queue. So I'll hit Start Render, and you can see that it will start rendering this first. It gives you a percentage and an estimated time remaining. When it's done, we'll check and look at all of the file sizes and what the export looks like. Okay, so now that we're done, completed really quickly, we can actually reveal these clips, these exports, and see where they're at. So this was a file here, Web Export Vimeo, and we can click on the VFX folder and look at all of the EXR clips. So Airplane VFX 0001, 2, 3, all the way to 84, and it's a .exr. So these are all, so this is an image sequence. So when you're when we're done with the render queue and you want to clear out all of this, you can go to the options and you can refresh, clear rendered, clear all. The deliver page has many more options for outputting various file formats and for supporting a variety of workflows, but you now understand the most commonly used workflows and how to set up your own custom presets. So I want to talk about another method of exporting that might be useful to you. A lot of times, some film festivals will ask for a digital cinema package, or a DCP. Resolve gives you the option of exporting a DCP that's compatible, that's widely compatible with many festivals out there. So if you go into Format and change the format to DCP, you now have the ability to actually export DCPs. Now, DCPs are can be complicated, so I'm going to just quickly show you a simple way, the simple settings to export a DCP. So we've chosen the format. The codec is specifically the Kakadu JPEG 2000. EasyDCP is actually a paid plugin. So right now, if we exported with EasyDCP, I didn't pay for the plugin, so it's going to give me a watermark. So make sure you choose the Kakadu JPEG 2000 codec. This is an open source codec that Resolve has integrated into their exports that gives you an unencrypted DCP. You can choose from 2K DCI, flat scope, and even 4K. I'm going to choose just straight up 2K DCI. For the bit rate, 250 is generally the maximum you want to go, but sometimes that might be a little bit too much for some cinema systems. So if you drop it down to, let's say, 200, that will ensure that it will be good quality enough, but it won't choke the system. The next thing you want to make sure is that you've selected this interop packaging. Then you need to make sure that the composition name is appropriate. So let's click on the browse to the DCP composition name generator. DCPs have this long string of names, of letters and numbers, and it's an industry standard format. So we'll call this film name Age of Airplanes. And our content type is, so this is a trailer for it, so it also actually has a trailer or a teaser. We'll just call this a trailer. And this is version 1, this is a 2D. So you fill out the rest of this that's appropriate. I'm going to okay. So this is it, and I'll click OK, and it names this composition name there. And one thing I do is copy the composition name, and that will be the file name for my DCP. So I'm going to create a folder for my DCP. Checking the audio and the file name. Okay, so this is generally all I'll need. Now, if you're doing surround exports and things like that, you need to make sure everything is routed correctly. And I'm going to make sure that no data burn-in. I'm going to turn off my data burn-in. And okay, so no data burn-in, I'm sure of that. All right, so when this is done, we can add it to our render queue. And I'll hit start render, and when I do that, make note of the color difference now. So one thing that you'll notice in the viewer when you're exporting a DCP is the change in the color. This is because DCPs use the XYZ color space. So what Resolve's doing is transforming your output color space into the correct XYZ space so it'll look correct when played off a digital cinema projector. You'll also see these black bars on the side because we are exporting it in 2K DCI, which is a little bit wider than 1920 by 1080, which is what this file is in. There's a couple of different ways of changing that. You can scale up your timeline to fit, or you can go into some scaling settings and adjust that. But that's for another video, another time. Now that this is done, I want to show you what a DCP looks like. So we right-click on our completed job, we'll reveal this in Finder, and it's going to bring us to our DCP folder. This is the DCP. It's Age of Airplanes, and it has this long string .dcp. Basically, you should have a number of files. Here we've got 6 different files created from the Resolve DCP, and this is the correct format. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the media page and actually import our DCP, or we can preview it here. So I'll drop it in our master bin. All right, so it's playing back. Now you notice that it's actually in the correct color space. What Resolve does is that it sees that it's in the XYZ color space, and it does the proper transform for this monitor. So it can read a DCP, and it can also export a DCP. Now again, these are unencrypted DCPs. If you need encrypted DCPs, you're going to have to get the EasyDCP plugin or go in a different route. But this is a great feature to have. It's built into the free and the studio version Resolve, and you have the ability to export DCPs that are unencrypted but still high quality directly from Resolve, and you're able to send this out to festivals. Now, to actually send it to festivals on a hard drive, you actually have to format the hard drive in the correct space, which is, again, another video. But if you're doing DCPs and you need to send it out, if you have any questions, by all means, ask me, let me know, and I'll see if I can help you. As you can see, the Deliver page is a very powerful page. Like with all of the pages in Resolve, you can do a lot of things in there, and I really didn't cover masters or IMFs or even round-trip workflows. Maybe in a later video I'll create a round trip, because for your MCPs you'll be doing a round trip from Premiere into Resolve and possibly even back out to Premiere to finish if you don't finish in Resolve. If you have any questions, please let me know, but that is lesson 14, the Deliver page.